Just want to say thank you everyone for being here today, and I'm stepping in for our colleague Randy Prebula, who unfortunately was ill and couldn't travel to be with us today. I did want to say first off, thank you to MIXiii for having us, and Stuart and I have been coming to Israel for a number of years now, Stuart much longer than I have. And I just want to say how fortunate that we feel to be here today to see old friends, to meet new friends, and to reestablish these relationships that we have with your country and with the biotech industry here. It's very important to us at Hogan Lovells, so very appreciative. We're going to kick it off by talking about defining your goals and understanding your product's risks and benefits. Bringing healthcare and medical products to the market globally centers on explaining and evaluating each product's intended medical purpose, how it helps patients, how it works chemically, physically, or biologically to achieve those purposes, and what risks it creates for patients and users. FDA notified bodies in the EU and regulators throughout Asia, Latin America, and under their various regulatory pathways all evaluate and balance risk and utility in assessing whether a product can be marketed. Being able to communicate clearly with many different stakeholders, regulators, payers, healthcare providers, patients, and the public generally about the benefits and risks is essential. And in this instance, it's important to note that each of these individual stakeholders require a tailored approach to how you discuss the risks and benefits. What is going to be important to your regulator may be less important to the patient population that you're trying to treat, and what you need to focus on with the healthcare industry may be different than what patients are going to value the most. So your plan needs to evolve depending on who your audience is.
So I wanted to talk about selecting effective advisors and partners. Excuse me, some of the things that Blake just spoke about, it's rare to be able to kind of do that all on your own. Typically you need effective partners for you. And there are a lot of needs where partners can be helpful to you, regulatory planning, reimbursement planning. And you really want to find advisors who are well-versed in these areas. Experience is crucial. Many of you bring your own experience to it, but it's important to have others, outside advisors with experience in these spaces. And I think when you want to look for advisors, you want to look for advisors who can work well together in the different areas, not just have the experience, but work well together, but that also listen. You need them to listen to you. You need them to listen to your investors. That you need them to listen to your potential investors, because really what they're trying to do is help you in the marketing and development of your product. And if you don't listen, I think your advisors don't listen. They're not going to be effective for you. I think one of the things that we take great pride in is the ability at Hogan Lovells to bring together the experience, the different pathways, the different expertise in being able to work together with you. So I think providing and obtaining and securing effective advisors is an important thing in the development of your technologies. Next topic we wanted to move to is assessing pre and post-market regulatory hurdles. Typically, most, especially in the medical device space, the focus is primarily, especially early on those hurdles from an FDA regulatory perspective, and I'm going to let Blake talk about that. But it's also important to be thinking about the reimbursement hurdles and potential hurdles. So I think that's another component, but I'll let Blake talk about the FDA regulatory aspects.
Thanks, Stuart. FDA and other regulators do much more than just review the preclinical and clinical data from bench, animal, and human clinical trials to determine whether a medical product can be marketed. From who supplies the raw materials, how they are qualified, where and in what environment products are manufactured, what procedures are used to make the test, release, store, and label, and commercialize products. all fall under the regulatory oversight. Mapping those requirements to your product's technologies is where we start in developing a comprehensive roadmap of the pre and post-market requirements. And this is essential wherever your product is going to be marketed and under whatever framework it is going to be regulated. From FDA to CE marking in the EU or the United Kingdom, Anvisa, ANMAT, or COFEPRIS in Latin America, Health Canada, and with an ever-expanding body of regulators in Asia and the Pacific region. Briefly, there is a time and a place for every purpose. Assessing when and what price to address these needs requires careful planning, adaptability, and flexibility, and creativity based on a deep understanding of the regulations and a willingness to adapt to each of the company's unique needs. In this way, it is important to work with your outside counsel, with your vendors, to try and come up with an effective strategy about what do I need to do today in order to get to that new milestone that I'm trying to reach that may help me get more investment in the future, and what can I potentially negotiate with the agency or one of the regulators that I mentioned to be able to push off. And sometimes this is more than just asking a simple request. This is working through a sound scientific strategy and justification as to why you will maintain the safety of patients who are going to be involved in your clinical trials and be able to move the product forward through development in a way that's economically feasible to the company.
Another important step is defining your value proposition, and the compensation that users or purchasers of your product are going to receive. And over the years, I've seen a real shift for investors, potential investors, to want to know that much earlier in the product development cycle. The way that we approach helping companies with the value proposition is generally putting together a document that addresses a few key pieces: coding, coverage, and reimbursement. Coding sounds boring. It is boring. It's really how, when the item is used, how is that going to be on a claim? Again, really boring, but important because that can impact the level of payment and how it's paid for. Coverage gets at whether an insurer is going to pay for an item. Do they view it to be medically necessary and for the patient to receive? And because clinical evidence is so key to that, you want to make sure that you get the clinical evidence that you're working with your FDA advisors on for marketing authorization. You want that to be able to do double duty and to be able to help you secure coverage in the marketplace after approval. And then finally, payments. When we look at payment, we look at the various sites of service that the technology is going to be used in, and really try and find ways to help a product make its way on the reimbursement roadmap, because there can be very beneficial PR, public relations aspects, if you can slot the technology into a payment mechanism. Next step, developing timelines, and whether it's commercial off-ramps or if you're going to take the product fully to market. The FDA and the reimbursement timelines really do work kind of on very different very different timelines. But you really want to have both. You want to be overlaying both. Whether it's the coordination of the clinical studies that I was talking about, or other issues. There are benefits to overlaying those timelines. But you also, as a company, are going to want to decide, are we looking to develop this, take it through the clinical phase, and then sell it? Or are we going to ourselves take it to market? Because that can also impact the timelines. It can also impact some of the important decisions that you make within those timelines. So that's an important component for companies to be considering.
Building in key milestones where the company's achievements can be valued and communicating the value proposition to investors needs to align with the regulatory pathways and their nuances. Part of this is about understanding, what are those important milestones that I'm going to put out a press release about, or when I go to my next conference that I'm going to be talking about. Maybe for individual investors, it's that, I went to my first pre-submission meeting with the FDA. It might be the first in human clinical trial that you're running. Maybe it's another, having moved on to phase 2 or having discussions with the agency or having achieved a breakthrough designation or RMAT designation. But mapping it out, again, with the help of your advisors, is important to understand how much runway you feasibly have and when you might be able to get a next infusion of cash. Disconnects between what you want to achieve and questions regulators ask, or frankly changes they demand, can happen. And so considering options, developing a plan B, or going back to investors to communicate about emerging opportunities should always be found in and checked against the regulatory framework for developing, manufacturing, studying, and seeking marketing approval for your products.
So I want to make a point about maintaining flexibility. It goes without saying that you're going to have to roll with the punches. You need advisors that will help you to be able to do that. You need to anticipate what could go wrong, what could change. You could have, maybe negative results in one of your FDA studies. There could be changes in the FDA landscape, in the reimbursement landscape. So you really need to, in adapting to this world, you need to be able to be thinking about this, working with your advisors, and to be able to be flexible, and also to learn as you go. You got to adapt to everything that's in front of you. I think we're at time now, so I wanted to just say that Blake and I hope that what we've provided to you is helpful to you. We get very excited with the technologies that you all are bringing, from the very early stage to market. We love to provide some assistance to you in doing that. But we really applaud all that you all do in bringing, whether it's the prosthetic device technologies that were mentioned before, bringing all of that for the betterment of patients is why we love to be able to help do what we do and help you. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.